Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Answer Man. Cliff, I got a studio audience across the street. Actually, it looks like a bunch of guys playing poker in their garage. Anyway, again, episode podcast Answer Man. I don't know the episode number right off the top of my head. I'm walking through the neighborhood. Actually restarting the recording of this episode as I was going to make it a My Crazy Life episode, but I realized it's so technical that it would make a perfect discussion for podcast Answer Man. Now, I'll briefly start off and tell you why I'm walking here on a Wednesday afternoon, probably around 12:20, 12:30 or so, in about 94-degree heat with a good relative humidity of about 90%. Bottle of water in my left hand to keep me hydrated. If you guys are not aware, I have taken a major drastic change in lifestyle, and for the last 2 months I've been walking every single day, and it took me a while to get to where I am now, but I'm currently walking 10,000 steps every day, Monday through Friday, or at least 5 days a week is my goal. That pretty much equates to, I go for a 5-mile walk every day. Sometimes I break that into 2 walks, maybe 2 miles here, 3 miles there. But sometimes I do a full, straight 5-mile walk. So that's why you're hearing me. You are going to hear me gasping for air at certain times. Right now, I have already been walking for a good 1.5 miles, 2 miles already in some pretty deep heat here. And in essence, I have been walking up and down inclines and currently walking on level ground here. If you're interested in following an idea of just having daily encouragement to get physically healthy and to start really caring about yourself physically and your physical health, I've been recording these episodes daily over at gspn.tv. And if you go to gspn.tv /category/MCL, I think is what it is, or just go to gspn.tv and under the podcast section, or under the section that you'll see family podcasts, click on that and you'll see My Crazy Life there. You'll be able to, you can go back and listen to a couple episodes, see if you like it. And just recently I changed it to where I record every day, or 5 days a week, and daily, and 4 of those are people who are Plus members get every single episode of My Crazy Life, and non-Plus members get the free Friday this week roundup episode. So there's still going to be, for non-Plus members, there'll be at least 1 episode a week of My Crazy Life. And for Plus members who are wanting to follow the internal workings of what's going on behind the scenes, becoming a podcasting new media professional and sharing all the struggles and all the joys of working for yourself after working for somebody else your entire life, and trying to live a balanced life and incorporating family and being a husband and a father and trying to lead a balanced life when it comes to starting to really get serious about your health and what you're eating and just everything else that's going on in My Crazy Life. There's a lot of people out there who are listening daily, and a lot of people are starting to share with me on a consistent basis that, hey, we just want to let you know you've encouraged us to start jogging or to start running or really think about our health. And since you've started, I've lost X number of pounds and all these other great things. So that's what's going on out there. That's another podcast you can listen to. But what is this episode of the podcast Answer Man about? It's I think I'm going to title this Data Migration. All right, data migration. It's a phrase that in my mind brings up, this chilling. It's kind of like going to the dentist for a root canal. It's basically, when I hear data migration to a new web host, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm going to take a drink of water here. I want to let you know that I am recording this episode with an Edirol R-09 recorder, the preferred recorder of the podcast Answer Man. that little message sponsored by me. If you're looking for podcast audio equipment, you can contact me, Cliff at gspn.tv or Cliff at ravenscraft.org. It'll all come to me. But anyway, so yeah, in the loud noise you hear in the background, those are called cicadas. And here in our part of the country, I'm in northern Kentucky, the cicadas are out. They come out every 17 years, and they are in full force out here. Actually, no, they're not. They're just about in full force. You'll hear them louder later on in this episode, possibly. Anyway, so data migration. I'm going to go ahead and share the whole story here because I haven't done it with Podcast Answer Man. I shared it in previous My Crazy Life episodes, but over the past 2 weeks, I started to notice something, and I just want to start off by telling you that for just over 2 years now, I have been a GoDaddy.com web hosting customer. I have been a huge fan of theirs because they do have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week customer service. There's a phone number you can call, and the people that you call and talk to, you can understand them when they talk, and for the most part, they're friendly, and if the person that is on the phone is not knowledgeable themselves, they will go and talk to somebody who can help out a majority of the time. And now, I will tell you, I've been on this thing called a shared hosting account with GoDaddy from the beginning, and those things only cost about $7-8 a month for web hosting. And for what I host on my podcast on the site, I'm telling you, it is 100% sufficient. I have no doubt it's been working for 2 years with no problem. But anyway, the one thing I can tell you is that recently I've started having some issues. So let's see here. First, I'll tell you, I don't store any MP3s on my hosting account. I have a special hosting account just for MP3 files with Libsyn.com. I'm going to be looking into Amazon S3 because since I've left TalkShoe and I'm not using them as my web host anymore, my cost on hosting MP3 files has more than tripled because of the amount of podcasts that I put out. So I am going to be looking at Amazon S3. From what I understand, it's just pennies for bandwidth. So, I'll see how that goes. Anyway, so yeah, here's the situation. So basically the only thing, let me tell you what's on my shared hosting server account with GoDaddy. There's about 5 WordPress installations. 5 WordPress installations. There's gspn.tv, the Plus member only website. There is podcastanswerman.com, and there's a test only one. There was a couple others that are sitting there that are just basically dormant right now. And so, that's all that's over there. And with each of those installations of WordPress, they each have a MySQL server or database on the MySQL server database or database server. See, this is what I was talking about. I'm going to stop and get another drink of water. Did I mention that it's very hot and humid out here? Boy, that tastes good. Okay, let me see how many steps I'm up to now. Oh, look at that, 4,441. It's a whole lot better than when I started. I was like, I don't know, I think about 700 steps when I started. So anyway, where was I? Okay, so, So I have these databases. And then, of course, I have a forum for gspn.tv/forum. And that software has a database. And then I have a program which it's kind of like another program, just like a PHP scripting program that has a database for my username and passwords for my Plus membership. That's it. And I really don't get a lot of traffic or bandwidth that would be, the cause of what I've been experiencing. But about 2 weeks ago, I started noticing that my website started to randomly slow down. Page loads taking, 2 weeks ago, 7 to 7 to 10 seconds to load. And I started noticing then it was taking, 15 to 20 seconds to load. Now, this isn't all the time. It's sporadically been happening. And then about a week ago, I started to notice something very discouraging. Not only was it taking sometimes 30 to 90 seconds to load, it was actually taking down my database from time to time. Basically, WordPress would time out and the scripting would say, hey, I'm sorry, but your database was here, but now it's gone. It's kind of like just disappeared in the middle of the process of me reading the data from your database. And so I called up GoDaddy and I explained to them that I am not your average user, that I've been doing website hosting for years, and in essence, here's what's going on. You have a database, a server that hosts my database, and that server has either a hard drive that's getting ready to fail or a network card that's getting ready to fail, and their site my site is becoming sporadically but more consistently unavailable or slow loading. And the very first phone call that I got, they basically escalated it to advanced hosting, got an email, or advanced hosting support, I should say. They escalated it up there, and I got an email back about 4 or 5 hours later saying, I'm sorry, we could not reproduce the situation on our side. Everything seems to be working and functioning correctly. Perhaps based upon your usage, you might be better served by using a dedicated server. Basically having, instead of sharing a computer and database and hardware with a bunch of other users who have their websites and databases on that computer, maybe I should have a box that's just my own, so I won't be affected during peak times. Well, I kind of had to let it go because I was very busy posting, 4 or 5 episodes a day, and all the other things that go along with doing consulting, working, and equipment sales. And I get in and I'm trying to post these new podcast episodes to my site. I'm just having a hard time doing it. And in essence, what's going on is, it's taken me where it should take me maybe 90 seconds once the file's uploaded to release an episode into 2 separate WordPress installations. Okay, maybe not 90 seconds, maybe 3 minutes. It's taking me 20 minutes to release one podcast episode in 2 WordPress installations, the Plus member site and the free site. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. And my blood pressure's going up, and then all of a sudden, I call them up and I say the same thing. And of course, they opened up an advanced ticket. It immediately gets closed. I'm sorry, Mr. Ravenscraft, but we are not able to duplicate your issues. Maybe you'll be better served during peak times if you were to have a dedicated server. So I took time to respond to the email this time rather than opening up a separate ticket. And I said, listen, you got to understand, this is not during peak times. This happens at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it can happen every hour in between. And I know this because I'm on my site all the time. And contrary to popular belief, I don't believe that I would be better served by a dedicated hosting server. I would be better served, if the server that hosted my database would be available when my PHP scripting calls for it. The problem is that it is sporadically starting to degrade in its performance and availability. It is a server issue, not the amount of times I'm hitting a server, because if you look at my bandwidth and you look at the number of calls to the database, there's nothing there to warrant me to need the power of my own dedicated server at this point. And I said, and so and I also explained to them saying, hey, I need you to understand, My website works beautifully. I mean, fast as lightning, 50% of the time. Okay? 40% of the time, it's okay. And when I say okay, I'm talking anywhere between 8 to 20 seconds to load. That's 40% of the time. So 90% of the time, you're right. When you go in and do your diagnostic, 90% of the time, there's a very good likelihood that when you run your diagnostic, your things are going to show that your SQL data server database server is functioning within its parameters. I will agree with you. What I need is somebody who will be willing to work with me and to stay on the line or to test this in such a way that during the other 10% of the time, you'll see that it's not working. And so I said, here's the other 10%. 8% of the time, when you go to the site, it will take approximately 45 seconds to a minute and a half for each page to load when you click on a new page on any of my sites. That's 8% of the time. And I said, then there's 2% of the time. And I realize it's low, but 2%, when 100, if I've got 2 out of every 100 people who might hit the site are going to get this error that says, hey, there's no database server here anymore. It went away. I mean, that was literally what the error said. Your database server has gone away. Of course, I know that was programmed to say that by WordPress, but I love how they worded it. It's gone away. It was here, but not anymore. So I explained all this to them. And, finally, 4 days ago, I got an email back from the support. And they said, listen, okay, and by the way, I begged them. I said, listen, I just want you guys to, I realize you have multiple servers for your SQL databases. All I'm asking you to do is, if you don't want to look into it deeper or anything like that, you don't think you have a hardware failure, I happen to know that a company the size of GoDaddy is going to have more than one database server box, IP address that hosts databases. All I'm asking you to do is please move my hosting account off of the box that it's in now and put me into a different hosting account. That's all I'm asking. Well, a couple hours later, got a response from somebody who says, hey Cliff, tell you what we're going to do. You can do that, and of course, emphasis on you. And he says, listen, this is what you do. You need to go in and create a new hosting account with GoDaddy, and then create new databases, blank ones. You need to then go to your old database server or database account, and you'll need to export all the data out of your current SQL databases. Export those out as backups, and then sign into the new one, import all that data in. Now, of course, you're going to be on a different computer, and you're going to need to update it to the new server IP address, or the new server address, and you're going to need to also update the username and passwords in the configuration files of all your PHP scripting programs. So the config.php of all the WordPress installations would have to be updated, as well as the forum software and the membership database. And I'm like, now I've had them move me from one server to the other before, and I didn't have to do any of this. They just pointed it over to a new server. They did the migration themselves, and it's like it took them, I think it was like 1 hour, one afternoon a while back. They just decided to move me over to a new server because I upgraded from the economy plan to the deluxe plan. And when they did that, it was a piece of cake for them. So I got this email saying that I would have to do all this. And, they've already introduced into my mind that the possibility is there that this is a shared hosting situation, and that, I might be better served by a dedicated server, having my own box. And so with that, I went ahead and been considering the fact that I might have to, go to something that's as much as $150, $250, $300 a month for hosting, which I just think is ludicrous. So I started putting the word out there. Now that email was 4 days ago, where they said that this is what I would need to do if I wanted to do it. And so I didn't respond. I just let it sit there. Site's still loading the same way it does. 2% of the time it fails. Plus members are getting, these random messages saying, hey, you're subscribed to this podcast, but your username and password's incorrect. Well, it's incorrect because the database to verify their username and password is, it's gone away. And so it's so frustrating. And of course, I've been communicating with my Plus members to let them know that this is what's happening. I'm on it. This is not something I'm taking lightly. And so anyway, I basically just started asking around about some other hosting accounts and for some recommendations. I talked to one of the community members that listens to our shows here at GSPN. He happens to be a Plus member. Happens to also own a company that serves, I won't say too much, but let's just say he does all the website implementation for some of the top companies in the world. So I'll just say that. So I call him up and say, hey, what would you suggest? And of course he's like, I deal with, larger implementations, and it's not really business practice to go out and recommend other people. But when it came down to it, this friend of mine says, listen, you might want to consider something that I'm looking into for a special project for a one-time campaign, and it's this service called Mosso, MOSSO.com. I'm going to take another drink. Take a look at the number of steps. I'm at 5,836 steps. Alrighty, so moving right along. Anyway, am I still recording here? The sun is so bright that I can hardly see it. Yeah, we're only at 22 minutes. We're good. So anyway, what was I going to say? Okay, so he says, check out Mosso. And I checked it out. And of course, I'm becoming fairly familiar with the difference between shared hosting, which I completely understand the concept, virtual dedicated servers, which now I understand that it's basically you're sharing a computer or a server with other people, but they kind of put up walls to where what you're doing on that server doesn't bleed over into their processes and stuff like that. So it's not really your own complete box that nobody else is into, but you've got your own equipment in that server or dedicated portion of that's always available to you. And that's at least the best of my understanding. And then of course there's dedicated, which I've already talked about. So I learned about that. But then I hear about Mosso, and of course so many people told me, I like DreamHost. Well, I want to tell you guys, I've heard a ton of bad stuff about DreamHost. Consistent failures of people that I know who do podcasting, and when they're on DreamHost, their sites are consistently unavailable. It's been my own experience, and that was none more evident than at PodCamp Nashville. And so, not a big fan of even the name DreamHost. Now, I will tell you, despite everything that's going on with GoDaddy, I want to tell you, for what I'm paying, $7, $8, $9 a month, whatever I'm paying now, for whatever I'm paying, I can't complain about the service, except for the fact that I am complaining about the service that I've recently received. But I think that maybe if I was one of their customers who was on a dedicated server, paying $140 a month, I think I'd probably have more one-on-one interaction with people and get a little bit more satisfaction. However, being that I'm on a shared server, really honestly, does it pay for them to have me on a $7 a month account and then to spend the amount of time that I think that they should spend helping me troubleshoot my issues? Technically, I think it'd make good business sense, especially with the number of people that I get hooked up with GoDaddy. So, let's see here. Mosso. Mosso is this thing called cloud computing. And I think it takes, and this is all brand new to me, But anyway, cloud computing is this setup where, in essence, you have this server space, okay? And it's not shared hosting, but it's kind of like more along the lines of virtual dedicated server. But not any one computer is yours. You basically upload into an IP address, but what computer or what server that IP address forwards to is changed dynamically as their complex system load balances everything. I know that all sounds crazy, but here's the situation. Let's just say I put up gspn.tv or the podcast Answer Man, and let's just say all of a sudden my server database server is not responding on the computer that it's hosted on. Well, whenever I upload something, from what I understand, every bit of data, all my databases are consistently synced and dynamically distributed to other servers. Literally thousands of clusters of all these different servers that they have running. So there's redundancy. All of my data exists in multiple locations. And let's just say if all of a sudden my RSS feed, because of course my MP3 files aren't on the site, but let's just say I get on dig.com for a podcast Answer Man episode that I've done. And let's just say 400,000 people are hitting my RSS feed at the same time. Well, what would happen there is that, if all of a sudden that server's being taxed too much, it's reaching its limits and abilities to compute and return all of those requests, well, their system that monitors all this notices that, and they take that load and they balance it out to other server locations that also host the same exact data. So therefore, it's consistently returning, making all my data available. And what was amazing is this friend of mine in the community told me about them, and as soon as I put out my request and I got all the other suggestions back from everybody as far as hosting, one of the things I got a Twitter message from twitter.com/Mosso, Mosso, and it turns out that the guy who is working for them in their sales and product development department, he happens to listen to some of our shows, and he follows me on Twitter, and he says, I'd love to talk to you about Mosso. And so then I'd already been looking at the site, and now this guy personally is inviting me to check out Mosso. And so I call him up personally, and we talked for a while, and it's like, something I learned about this company is that they are a startup. Cloud computing, from what I understand, is relatively new, but this Mosso is a startup company, and it's kind of backed by, it's not a division of, but I think it's backed by financially Rackspace. Now, Rackspace is a very prominent company in the web hosting world out there. I remember hearing Rackspace commercials way back in the day of Tech TV. I mean, I've heard it's an established name that I've heard of, but Mosso is relatively new, I guess. And that's the only thing that really kind of concerns me, is that they're relatively new. It's a startup, and I don't know how I feel about quote-unquote startup. But, hey, gspn.tv and Podcast Answer Man, it's a startup, right? So I need to be able to embrace startup companies and support startup companies, because I'm a startup company. So, yeah, I guess I do support it. Good rationale there, Cliff. Oh, that was Cliff talking about himself in the third person, by the way. That occasionally happens in the My Crazy Life podcast. So, anyway, so Mosso, I talked to him, I find out that it's supported by this company, and I'm like, but tell me about your uptime. There's no guarantee of uptime, but these guys are working they got great support department, all this other stuff. Of course, I'm talking to a sales guy, right? But what was really cool is when I asked him some specific questions, like, well, tell me how many times in the last 90 days you guys have been down for more than 5 minutes. And he said 0. And he sounded like a trustworthy guy. You know, how many times in the last 3 years have you been down for more than 5 minutes? And he says, one time. There's one time in the last 3 years that we have been down for more than 20 minutes. And it was about 23 minutes we were down. But that was one time in 3 years. Now, he says, is there a time, you know, where the site's unavailable for 4 minutes or 2 minutes as we're doing maintenance and something got fat-fingered? It happens. And by fat-fingered, that means that somebody was programming some new code in and they accidentally hit 2 keys instead of 1 and got an extra line in there. But those things, you know, those are going to happen. What's cool, though, 24-hour a day, 7-day a week support. And I asked him, I said, so tell me some other clients that are using your services. He says, have you ever heard of Teen Challenge Awards? And I'm like, I think so. He says, you know, the thing with Miley Cyrus and all those teen pop idol stars and all that stuff. And he says on Fox, on the Fox channel or whatever, Fox Family, they have the Teen Choice Awards. He says, it's going on right now. They're one of our clients, and they're having a major web campaign. And as soon as this program goes off, they're expecting about 8.5 million people on the site. That's on our cloud computing, on our cloud computers. And I'm like, really? So I went to Teen Challenge. He told me to go to Teen Challenge, teenchallengeawards.com or whatever it's called. And I went there and I looked around. It's a very nice design site. Of course, that has nothing to do with them, but it loaded fast, very media intensive, I think it was at the time. And he says, I'm logging into the back end. He says, I just want to let you know right now there are 226,000 people on this site right now. And I was one of those 226,000. I was clicking through, and he says, that site should be as responsive as any other site that only had, 15 people on it. And it was. And through the process, he kind of sold me on it. Cost of the service, $100 a month flat. Now, of course, Teen Challenge Awards and Fox or whatever was paying more than the $100 a month because, there is some limitation to bandwidth for the $100 a month stuff. But with all the limitations that are there and compute cycles limitations, I don't think GSPN.TV is going to ever exceed the cost of $100 a month. But, it could end up costing. I mean, he obviously wasn't obligated or wasn't able to tell me how much they're paying for, 8.4 million expected visitors to the site. But he did tell me, he's like, listen, you got to understand, we've brought in 9 extra guys to work 24 hours or to work the night shift with us here just to make sure this thing stays up and running for this. Because, of course, this is an unusual load, but something that we're willing to do for our clients. And so anyway, Moso.com, $100 a month is what I'm signed up for. 31-day money-back guarantee. If you decide that you're looking for a web hosting solution and you're looking to pay $100 a month or more, if you decide to go with Moso, don't go there just yet. Let me know first, and I'm going to set up an affiliate account with them. But until then, of course, if you decide it, then I'll get it set up quicker, and you'll be able to use that. Now, basically, I think if somebody signs up after they've used the service for 31 days on a billing cycle, then I get a month free of my hosting. I think is how it works. So, of course, the truth is, how many podcasters need the hosting account of 100, a virtual dedicated server? I don't know. Not many, I don't think. But there are. Here's the thing. I'm going to check my time here. We're at 34 minutes. I'm going to take another drink here. I'm going to check my number of steps. I'm at 7,111 steps. I'm going to continue to walk a little bit more. I'm actually right in front of my house, but I think I'm going to go hit a couple more streets and get these steps up there closer to the 10,000 mark. And that way, maybe after dinner, I can just go for one more last, half-mile walk tonight, or a mile-long walk. So, anyway, SQPN.com, talked with my friend Greg Willits and Father Roderick about their hosting account, and also talked to the secret guy the man behind the curtains. And I promised him that I would not share his name, the guy who's behind the curtains, who manages and does the maintenance on the database or on the servers for SQPN. But anyway, I talked with him and talked about the company that they're with, and I called that company up and talked with them, and it turned out that I was going to have to make a change eventually. And one of the things that I do realize is this: in the past 30 days, I have been on the front page of Yahoo Business. I was in the Investors Business Daily. There was 2 stories that were done on me in Investors Business Daily. One was a story called "Insurance Agency Turns Lost Obsession into Podcasting Career," and or New Media Career, and that was in Investors Business Dailies. And then there was another story called "People Are Listening, but to What?" And it was about advertising and podcasting. And so I was mentioned in both of actually one article was totally about me, and the other article put an argument for and against what was it called? CPM, cost per 1,000 downloads, as a method of charging for podcast advertising right now in this market. And it was basically 2 sides of the coin. I'm against CPM right now, personally, and Scott Bourne from Podango.com and the iPhone Show and MacBreak Weekly. Anyway, it was basically the 2 of us giving our opposing views on CPM. And so I've been on Investors Business Daily, and of course both of those stories made it to, or one of those stories, the insurance salesman turns podcasting career into, or lost obsession into podcasting new media career. That hit the front page of Yahoo Business News. And so I imagine that the fact that, with over 1 million subscribers to Investors Business Daily, and then getting on Yahoo front page business section, and all of those different things, I'm sure that's increased the traffic. I was recently listed in the BT Vision on TV guide for people in the UK, all throughout the UK. There's this digital television service called BT Vision, and this month on their TV guide, I think I'm on page 12, talking about the Weekly Lost podcast, and of course it's got my website address there. So, is it possible that I'm just getting so many hits right now that's really what's causing the problem? I guess that's possible. And so because of that, I decided I'm going to make a switch. I am going to move. And I decided, out of everybody I talked to, I felt the most comfortable talking with the Moso people. These people took time to talk with me. They took time to answer very technical, detailed questions, and felt very confident in that. So I started this data migration. That's where basically I signed into my shared hosting account, FTP site, on GoDaddy, leaving everything up there, of course, downloading copies of every single file and folder on my FTP account. And I will tell you, it took forever for all that stuff to download. I got a ton of stuff up there. But anyway, it took forever for it to download because it was, of course, your shared hosting account. When you're signed in via FTP, it limits you to how much bandwidth you can get per second. And it also limits you to accessing 2 files at a time. You can't download more than 2 files at a time. So it took forever. Let me tell you, I signed into my Moso FTP account and uploaded it. And I didn't try any more than 8, but I set the maximum number of connections to 8. It was uploading 8 files at a time, consistently at all times. And I am telling you, the upload for each file was about 25 times faster than the download of the files from GoDaddy. So the upload process took literally no time at all. And then, of course, I created the database files, set up the domain account, set up the database files on the new account. I went and exported the databases for my main sites, GSPN and the Plus member site and the forum, and also the membership program database. Backed up all of those, downloaded them, and then imported that data into the new databases, configured all the config files. They have me set up on a testing server, so I can type in like gspn.tv.something.com, and it pulls up my site as it would normally. And I've got this like testing environment, so my site is actually live, the forum is up, the gspn.tv site, the Plus member site, it's all up and running, lightning fast load speed times, and just really going awesome. And I'm just, basically I was waiting on one thing. I purchased this membership management software from i2 Communications, and I apologize, I'm getting ready to go up a pretty significant hill here, so you're going to hear me gasping for air. This is all about me getting physically fit, guys. Anyway, what was I going to say? So, everything's up and running, but I got this one membership program, and of course, it's hosted on a new server. So when I go to log in to test it out, it says, invalid license information, contact i2 support, because of course I got a new IP address over there. So I'm waiting for them to update my license so that I can verify that the membership address is working. Once that membership address is working, and I can verify that username and database passwords and everything is ready, then it's as simple as going over to GoDaddy.com and forwarding all of my data, my gspn.tv domain over to the new name servers for my new host over at Moso. And wow. Okay, coming to the top of the hill now. Anyway, that little hill right there is one that really burns the fat, let me tell you. Kicks my butt every single time I go up it, and especially on these hot summer days. Matter of fact, I'm going to take a drink here. At this time, my bottled water is roughly about 87 degrees, but it doesn't matter. Alright, okay, so I'm back on flat ground. I'll eventually catch my breath again. I got a good steady pace going on. In fact, I am currently at 8,019 steps. Only 2,000 more steps to go for the day, which means I've walked 4 miles since I've been out here today, which is good. Alright, so basically I'll forward over my DNS records to some new name servers over at Moso, and it should all be up and running. So in the meantime, I figured, I'm going to go ahead and create a domain on the Moso server for podcastanswerman.com. So I went ahead and did that. Went ahead and uploaded via the FTP site the information there. Went ahead and created the database. Did all of that stuff. And guess what? I went to go get the database information from GoDaddy. Signed into the GoDaddy.com account. Went into my hosting account. Clicked on Manage Hosting. And guess what it says? There is a pending service request on this account. Please check back later. I call GoDaddy.com. Do you want to know what they're doing 4 days later? Actually, a week and a half later. They told me that there's a note in the account that they are personally switching my account from one server over to another server. Yes. They are doing it. I'm not doing it. They are doing it. So they are moving my information, all of my data, migrating my data from one IP address over to another. And of course, once that's complete, they will go into my DNS record and point my DNS over to the new IP address. It will be seamless, flawless to everybody that's out there. The only thing that's going to change, of course, is that on the on the web host environment for gspn.tv, where it's at currently as I record this, when I go into my management program for my usernames and passwords, it's going to say I have an invalid license because GoDaddy has changed my IP server. So basically that's going to quit working. And do you know what's going to happen? I'm about 95% sure that once they migrate my data over to a different server box over at GoDaddy, I'm almost positive that all of my sites will start loading fast as I'm on a different MySQL database server in the GoDaddy system. I'm almost positive. And you know what? That's put me at this position where I am right now, where I ask myself, okay, do I cancel what I'm doing with Moso.com, which is $100 a month, and stick with the $9 or $7 or $8 a month that I'm paying with GoDaddy, which I'm already currently paid in full until 2010 on? You know? Hold on a second. My son Matthew is coming up to me here. Stay there, bud. What's wrong? What? I'm actually, you know what? I'm just getting ready to come home right now, buddy. But I'm going to do a walk after dinner, okay?
Okay.
And you want to go with me after dinner?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, so that put me at this situation where I need to ask myself, what am I going to do now? Do I, if all of a sudden this afternoon, because number one, I can't get into the hosting account. I can't get the database for Podcast Answer Man until the migration is complete. But once it is complete, once they have me on a new server, if I go there and I just leave it as it is and I just let it load, for, let's say, the next day and see if it basically all of a sudden resolves any and all issues and problems that I have there. Do I leave myself at GoDaddy.com and paying the very low price of $9 or $10 a month? Or, and recognize that, sure, it took me a week and a half to get to somebody who would make the change, but I eventually did get to somebody who is making that change for me. And, sure, am I a little upset about how long it took to get somebody to understand my issue and stuff like that? Sure, I'm upset. But am I only paying $7 a month versus $100 a month? Is it worth the extra $90 a month to have somebody that's there for an issue that happens once every 2 years or once every 18 months? That's the conundrum that I'm in. But then again, I'm almost praying that, maybe it is the fact that I've gotten so many hits and so many requests on the SQL database. And therefore, that's why it's basically throwing back those errors. And maybe the Mimosa will be the result, the thing that finally fixes that issue. And so, anyway, you know what? And the cool thing is Mimosa has a 31-day money-back guarantee. So I would get all $100 back from them if in fact I decide to cancel that account. And the thing about GoDaddy, and again, I'm not completely putting GoDaddy.com down. For 2 years I've had no issues. I really do believe that this is a hardware issue, and they do have some really awesome one-click install options. Hey, McKenna, out of the street, sweetheart. So anyway, I hate to leave them, and some would say, gosh, Cliff, after what you've gone through and how much it took you to get to where you are, to get to this new hosting account, for them to actually do the work and do what they should have done from, at least day 2. I could understand if they didn't do it the first day and blah, blah, blah. But at least the second time I escalated. It shouldn't have taken 5 times. But at this point in the game, where we are right now, do we go ahead and say, let's pay for the hosting account? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm moving a piece of equipment out of the driveway here. But anyway, so the whole situation is that, what do I do? That's where I'm at. Data migration, website hosting. This is what happens, I guess, when you have a big network and you're trying to do this full time. And I just wanted to share that with you. And that's today's episode of the podcast Answer Man. Of course, this is sponsored by Evan Agee over at AG Design, ageedesign.com/podcast. Mention Podcast Answer Man to get 20% off. And thank you, Evan Agee, for sponsoring the podcast Answer Man. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.